There is a podcast that lies between the imagination of two simple-minded earthlings. Travel with these two longtime friends, Jimbo and 80s E, as they attempt to explore the fifth dimension. Follow along with them as they take the key and unlock the door to the vast space between shadow and substance. This podcast is one of trivia, of insight, and of sounds and ideas from one of the greatest television shows ever produced. You are embarking on a timeless journey. There is your signpost up ahead. You are entering the tragedy of cinema's Twilight Zone.
What you have just witnessed could be the end of a particularly terrifying nightmare. It isn't. It's the beginning. Although Alan Talbot doesn't know it, he's about to enter a strange new world. Too incredible to be real, too real to be a dream. It's called the Twilight Zone.
All right, guys, welcome back to the Tragedy of Cinema podcast, the Twilight Zone series. I'm 1/3 of your host, Jimbo, and I'm joined, as always, by my faithful co-workers.
Hey, this is Jason Bond in Texas.
Hey, this is 80s E in Indianapolis.
And we just got one thing to say. Hoo.
Go Hoosiers, baby. Hoosiers.
Baby. On the verge of winning their first ever national title in football.
Yeah, it's a good day. It's a good year so far. Hopefully we can pull it off in a week from Monday.
We are starting season 4 of the Twilight Zone, Eric. Can you believe we're finally around to starting season 4? There's only 5 seasons in this.
I know. It only took us 5 years to get to season 4, right?
And this is the start of the hour-long episodes.
Indeed it is. And there are only 18 episodes in season 4. So when we come to the end of our season and we do our tragedy awards, we may only have room for like a top 5 because a top 10 would be too many.
Yep.
Yeah, it'd be over half the episodes.
Yep.
Yeah. So, well, without any further ado, let's kind of jump in here and we'll see where we land with this hour-long episode. So this episode is entitled In His Image. Again, as stated before, it's season 4 of the Twilight Zone, and it's episode number 1. This one comes in with an IMDb rating of 7.4. We'll see if that holds up when we get to the end of our episode here. This particular episode was directed by Perry Lafferty. Not sure that his name has come up yet in the series. He seems like a new director. It was written by Charles Beaumont, someone whose name we're very familiar with. And this particular episode, the date on the episode for its release date was January the 3rd, 1963. So we are entering a new year here in 2026. This was many, many years ago in the new year, 1963. And the particular total production costs for this episode, as you might imagine, with a new format and CBS slotting an hour long for the episodes, it came in with a heavy production cost of $112,070.12. So that's probably the largest number that we've seen so far. And it makes sense with the new arrangements. What also changed were the dates of rehearsal and filming. Well, rehearsal was only one day of July 30th, 1962. The dates of filming, however, very lengthy. July 31st, August 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 6th, and August 7th of 1962. So they had a long week of work that particular year when they filmed this episode. So as we move along with some other interesting facts about this particular episode, before we move too much further along, let's move into our favorite segment of the podcast, the segment we like to call On This Day in History. Sorry about that. I have to turn that down a little bit. It's kind of loud. So for On This Day in History, for January the 3rd, 1963, which is the release date of the episode, let's talk about some trivia, some movie, sports, all around music. You know, it's a plethora of trivia. Let's go all the way back to 1920, and I'm sure you guys will both be fairly familiar with this. In 1920, the Boston Red Sox baseball club, its owner, Harry Frazee, announces an agreement to sell slugger Babe Ruth to the New York Yankees for $125,000 in cash and $350,000 loan to start the first year of the 84-year-long curse of the... Anybody remember what it is?
The Bambino?
Yep. That's what I was going to say. Curse of the Bambino.
You are correct. The curse of the Bambino, the great Bambino. So let's skip several decades later and go to 1958 on January the 3rd. And we'll talk about a man by the name of Edmund Hillary. I think he was famous for Mount Everest. He was one of the first to scale Mount Everest. Well, this was a different expedition. He leads a Commonwealth team to the South Pole using modified Ferguson tractors, becoming the first to reach the pole by land since 1912. So that Edmund Hillary, that dude was a busy guy, right? Explorer.
Explorer.
Yeah. So that was in 1958. January the 3rd, 1973, a 12-man syndicate led by Michael Burke and George Steinbrenner III, by the way, they buy the MLB New York Yankees from CBS for $10 million. So George Steinbrenner in 1973 bought the Yankees for $10 million. Not a bad deal. I don't know what they're worth now.
Good investment, man. Good investment.
Yeah, I don't know what they're worth now. I'm sure it's probably well into the billions. $10 million, 1973. This one was kind of odd. This next one, I was really kind of shocked at it. Well, you'll see why. So on January the 3rd, 1987, get that year right, Aretha Franklin becomes the first woman inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. 1987, first woman. That seems like a long time, but apparently that's the case. I liked her in. Do you like her in Blues Brothers? You guys?
Oh yeah, she's great in Blues Brothers, man. I'm wondering what year the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame started.
Yeah, I don't know.
It was the first year for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame because 87 seems pretty recent, but if it didn't start until around that time,
so
that's not too bad.
He's hitting the Google machine now. I would say I'm going to have a guess of maybe the late 40s, early 50s is when it started. The Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. That's just a guess. January the 3rd, 2004, after hosting the show for 30 years, Casey Kasem steps down as host of the American Top 40 and is succeeded by Ryan Seacrest.
And I'm Casey Kasem.
Yeah, a staple.
And on with the countdown.
Yeah, a staple on Sunday morning, afternoon.
I like how he would go for the countdown and then he would give but before we continue, he'd go into
Here's a long distance dedication from.
Yeah.
Rock and Roll Hall of Fame started in 1983.
Oh, I was way off.
So 87 is not too far off.
No, that makes a lot more sense.
It's held its first induction ceremony in 86, honoring Elvis Presley and Chuck Berry.
Okay.
So 87 is not too ridiculous.
No, it's not. Now that makes complete sense now that you read that off to me. Let's talk about a couple birthdays and we'll move on during our episode here. January 3rd, 1892, J.R.R. Tolkien. Birthday, he was born on that day. He died in 1973. British author, The Hobbit, The Lord of the Rings. He was born in Bloemfontein, South Africa. I probably butchered that city, I'm sure. And January the 3rd, 1956, American actor of Mad Max, Lethal Weapon, filmmaker, one Mel Gibson. He was born in Peekskill, New York. January the 3rd, 1981, American football quarterback, two-time Super Bowl winner and Pro Bowl winner in 2008, 11, 12, 15. He was a player for the New York Giants, born in New Orleans, Louisiana, one Eli Manning, who is currently 45 years old. Guys, fan of Eli Manning? Like Eli?
I know we had his brother for us, Eric. We weren't a fan of the baby brother.
Right. Well, the Manning brothers indelibly put their mark on the NFL. They're both pretty
Definitely.
good.
And their dad.
Let's back up.
And Texas is putting all their money on Arch Manning.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nephew.
Yeah. He came on a little stronger toward the end of the season. I think he had a
he's
rough
showing
start.
potential to be a 3rd round pick or so.
Yeah, I think he'll be all right.
He's coming back though next year, ain't he?
Yeah, he'll be back.
Yeah, he'll be all right. And then everyone's favorite, I'm sure, around our round table here, January the 3rd, 2003, Swedish climate change activist born in Stockholm, Sweden, Greta Thunberg. So shout out to Greta. She's saving the world one boat at a time. So she's 23 years old. Wow. She
still looks like she's 14 years old.
Yeah, exactly. Time flies. Back to our episode In His Image. Let's talk about a plot, and I can't wait to hear from Bond about this cast. But let's talk about a plot for this episode. Alan Talbot, a seemingly ordinary man, suffers sudden violent blackouts that leave him terrified of his own behavior. After seeking medical help, he learns the shocking truth from his creator, Dr. Walter Ryder. Talbot is not human, but a highly advanced android designed to function as a perfect man. As Talbot develops emotions and self-awareness beyond his programming, his creator deems him too dangerous to exist. When Talbot demands the right to live, a confrontation ends. Boy, does it. That confrontation, we'll get to that in a minute. That was pretty good scene work there. This confrontation ends in his destruction, leaving a grim warning about the moral consequences of creating life without responsibility. So there you go. It's all laid out. Mr. Bond, tell us about the cast of this hour-long episode.
No problem, man. Talking Twilight Zone, season 4, episode 1. Like you said, directed by Perry Lafferty. He produced shows like All in the Family, MASH, Mary Tyler Moore Show, written by Charles Beaumont. Hey, we know him from the Howling Man episode of The Twilight Zone, one of my personal favorites. And he also wrote the movie The Seven Faces of Dr. Lao. But here's our cast. We have George Grizzard as Alan Talbot / Walter Ryder. He played 2 characters. Kind of played 4 characters if you count the really bad robot versions of him on the, on the gurneys. Okay, so here's something really cool about George. He won a Grammy, an Emmy, and a Tony Award.
Really?
Yeah, so if he would have won an Oscar, he would have gotten the EGOT.
Yeah, that's impressive.
Short. That's amazing.
That's very impressive.
He was in the movie Seems Like Old Times with Chevy Chase. And on TV, he was on episodes of Murder, She Wrote, Cosby Show, those kind of things. But when I heard that he won Grammys, Emmys, and Tonys, I was like, wow, he was a really great actor.
Yeah.
Whether or not you think he's a great actor in this episode, we'll find out. Gail Kobe played Jessica Conley, who may have been 21, may have been 45 on this episode. We'll talk about that also.
Oh, okay. I'm intrigued.
She was in the movie The 10 Commandments as a slave girl.
Really?
Uncredited. A slave girl in The 10 Commandments. She was also in the Twilight Zone episodes World of Difference, right? And the self-improvement of Salvador Ross that we won't get till next season.
Okay.
She was also in the TV show Hogan's Heroes and Bewitched.
I see nothing.
Squire, exactly. Catherine Squire played the old woman at the beginning who was in the subway at 4:30 in the morning by herself.
She was doing the Lord's work.
She was.
She was doing the Lord's work. She's famous. She was on Broadway. She was also, get this, I love this part. She was in the movie When Harry Met Sally as one of the couples on the couch.
Oh.
In the movie When Harry Met Sally, they would always cut to these older couples who've been married 50, 60 years.
Yeah.
She was one of the wives that was on the couch in When Harry Met Sally. James Say played the sheriff, and he was in the movie Miracle on 34th Street, and he had lots and lots of TV roles, including Adventures of Superman, which, of course, I had to point out. Giorgio Petri was the driver that stopped Alan Talbot and said, "Are you all right? Are you right? Could you sign this piece of paper? So you won't
Don't sue me, man."
Yeah, don't sue me. I mean, I don't want any internal bleeding or anything, but no, don't sue me. He was in the movie Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. And I did not know this. You have to be a really big fan. He was Eddie Haskell's dad on Leave It to Beaver.
No way.
So if you go back and watch Leave It to Beaver,
I just watched it last night and
Eddie
every
Haskell's
night.
dad is the driver from this episode.
Really?
That's weird.
Wait.
Note?
Yeah, in Leave It to Beaver, Eddie Haskell's dad loans him a credit card, and Wally's battery goes dead after the football game, and they're driving back. And yeah, Eddie's dad gets really mad because he uses his credit card to buy Wally's battery, and it was like $16. Yeah. Okay, I have to go back and watch that episode again.
You get 7.5 nerd points.
Yeah. Oh man, that's cool. All right.
Here's something sad about Giorgio Petri, though. He died on his birthday.
Ooh.
Yes, he died on November 16th, 1987, which was his birthday.
Didn't we discuss that in one of our episodes? Like, I wonder how many people die on their actual birthday. Maybe
Their actual birthday.
Yeah.
So on his tombstone, it's got the same date. Like,
right. Just separated by years.
Yeah, isn't that crazy?
How many people die at the exact same time they were born
Oh,
on
now,
the same day?
now we're
you're
getting
really
in the
crazy.
weeds now. Yeah.
Yeah.
701.
That's our cast for this episode. There's really a really small cast. There's a couple other people, the person that runs the hotel, those kind of things. But that's your main. Really, there's only like main two,
Right.
right? There's just Alan and Jessica. Those are like the main two characters.
Right. Well,
And that's your cast.
I'm sure Jimbo is not really thrilled with this hour-long format so far because they don't fill the extra 30 minutes with a whole lot of action, do they? It's filled with
do much of anything.
whole
It's a lot of talking.
lot of dialogue, really. Yeah, and we'll get to that maybe in our ratings at the end of the episode. But let's start with an outline. Let's get into Act 1. I've entitled this act, The Mystery of Alan Talbot. And it does pull you in. I will say that. In the beginning of the episode, when he goes into the subway, well, let's talk about it. The opening, Alan comes out of the hotel and goes down to the subway steps. We meet Alan Talbot. He looks at his watch. I think he looks in like a window or something and looks, the camera pans down to his watch and it shows 4:30. And then he goes down the subway steps and we start hearing these whirling noises, I guess how you would describe them. And we get a little bit of a clue, right? Like what's going on? This is, drawing you in very early. And so he's waiting in the subway station, and then Alan is approached by an evangelist, a lady. Alan is not interested, but he takes the pamphlet. I think it was I forget the title of the pamphlet.
Yeah, the tract is something to your salvation.
Yeah, some
Key to Your
simple
Salvation,
plan
The
of
Road to
salvation, maybe, or something like that.
Yeah.
And he just is sort of like appeasing her. However, this evangelist won't leave him alone. And she's persistent, talking about her husband. And she asks him if he's sick. And then she really leans in and starts quoting some scripture references from Leviticus, which really aren't necessarily directly applicable to the plan of salvation. She's witnessing to him and telling him that, he needs to get right with God and that the devil is crouching around the corner and he's looking to, I think a lot of the things that she was saying was true, but her approach and the way that she was really leaning in and being almost confrontational obviously turned him off, and he's trying to get rid of her and dismiss her. Later, before we skip to later, this is a really dramatic ending to the first scene, right? He gets very frustrated. He hears all those whirling noises again, and he's hearing voices in his head, and he throws this elderly lady onto the train tracks to get ran over, and immediately you're like, whoa, what's going on here, right? Like, it draws you in fairly quickly.
We'll let the courts decide whether or not he pushed her into the rails or if she fell.
Right. And you're like, why would this guy just instinctively I just wish they would have made it a little more Terminator-esque. I wish he would have killed a few more people before the long dialogues. But Yeah.
He was very patient, I thought. He was very. She got more and more in his face.
Right, more aggressive.
Yelling at him. It's like, you look sick. And he's like, no, I'm fine. Yeah, that's what my dead husband said. He said his last words were, I'm fine.
Right.
And she was just in his face the whole time. And so he kind of grabs her. I watched it this morning again. He kind of grabs her. And I'm not sure if he pushed her. I don't think she jumped. But, man, it's going to be, we'll have to go to the video for that one.
Yeah. And again, just to reiterate, just watching it in the first run through, I'm like, whoa, that really draws you in. Like, what would cause him, even though he's, agitated by her? That seems a bit over the top to throw somebody onto the railroad tracks. But moving along later, Alan, he seemingly has no memory of the murder that's committed. He visits the home of his fiancée, Jessica Connolly. And we find out they haven't even really known each other very long, right? And they've already decided to get married. Jimbo, do you have a comment? You got your finger in the air.
I do. Before you move along from the subway system, yes, I would like to point out the wonderful product placement of these posters in the background. I don't know if you paid attention to them, but there's one that says, with your help, the mentally ill can come back.
Oh, really?
That one was great. But also there's one that has a devil and a guy in a suit. And that makes me think of the Howling Man that you say. I don't know if Charles Beaumont put it in there on purpose.
He did. It's in trivia. Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah.
It says like screen out the meat and you can dress like the devil. That's what it says on this poster. And I'm like, well, that is really weird. What does screen out the meat mean?
Yeah.
So, but I've seen those two, and there's one that says like on the job. And then there's another one I think is like, you can serve your country too, or something. So I just thought it was pretty cool to see some of those stuff in the background.
Yeah, it's a good observation. So Alan doesn't remember anything, and apparently he's just met this woman, and boy, I wonder about, she's worried about his mental state. I wonder about her mental state, that she's willing to marry a guy after only knowing him like 5 days. Maybe she should have her head examined, or 4 days. Sorry, Bon Son. So 4 days they've known each other, and she's getting married.
What creeps me out about that whole thing is the amount she knows about him in 4 days.
Oh, yeah.
Because he questions, like, are you sure about this? I mean, we've only known each other for a small time. And she goes, here's what I know. And she like gives him a list of where he lives, mm-hmm. what he does for a living, how much he makes a week.
Well, I mean, that's an important piece of information. Yeah, that's an important piece of information. You got to know how many bucks this guy's bringing in before she...
I know you make $600 a month. $600 a month? Keep shopping.
See, half of 600 if this doesn't work out. Right. So
that freaked me out too, man. I was like, they've known each other for 4 days, and she's already like, let's get hitched.
Yeah, definitely. So Alan decides he's going to take her to his hometown of Corville to meet Aunt Mildred, who raised him, and he's going to show her where he works at the college and all these, they got a nice trip planned. So they set off to go to Corville. When they arrive, almost everything in the town is as Alan remembers, but there's another man living in his house. The university where he was employed is gone. And all the people he knew are either said to have died years ago, or else there is no record that they've even existed. And then they end up, I'm skipping ahead here a lot, but they end up in a cemetery, right? And the place where his parents were buried, instead of their names, he finds the tombstone with the name Walter Ryder. And seeing his name on the tombstone there, it seems to trigger a repressed memory, right? He has this repressed memory, and the whirling starts again. And so things don't exactly turn out right the way that they're supposed to. That the town is completely different, and we're going to figure out why in a minute. But anything from those scenes that stick out? Like first they start in a hotel or something, right? And then there's like supposed to be a restaurant or something.
Yeah, here's the part that I struggle with this opening scene, or this little part right after the opening scene. It's an hour-long episode, but they seem to show us the same thing 5 or 6 times different ways.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, hey, this building wasn't here. Hey, where's the coffee shop? It's the same thing over and over again that they're just showing you in different ways.
Yeah.
And I'm also wondering, how far is her apartment from this town?
Yeah, I wonder that too.
Because if you remember, he had to wake up at 4:30 to get to her house.
Yeah.
Not only that, but when they get to her house or her apartment, they're packing a picnic basket. So they have like this huge picnic basket full of snacks and supplies that they're bringing.
Like 6 in the morning.
Yeah, it's 6 in. They're packing a picnic basket for this road trip.
Mm-hmm.
So, is it super far away? Because I mean, spoiler, later in the episode, she goes back home. She's home in minutes.
Yeah. In TV time, it does seem very quick. I didn't really understand that. I just assumed that she lived in New York City. And that
I thought she lived in the city, right?
Right, and that this is like upstate New York, possibly. Yeah, it doesn't really. We don't get. I
was kind of confused with that because I was like, okay, you brought a picnic basket, but they never stopped to eat it. I thought they were going to stop at that park, with the first little pond where he's having a bad dream and he's saying Walter in his dream.
Right. Yeah,
I thought they were going to stop there and eat.
But you got to remember, I think what we failed to realize is at the very beginning when he first comes there, he's like. She's like, well, you're late. He's like, what do you mean I'm late? He's like, it's only, I said I'd be here by 5 till 6 and here or whatever. And he's like 45 minutes late. Yeah. So somewhere along the way, he's already losing time.
Yeah. So, when he throws the lady. Don't know why. Yeah. He throws the lady on the train tracks. He loses a couple hours of time there and he doesn't, I wonder. Yeah. That's another plot hole. Why doesn't he realize that he's lost like 2 hours of his day when he shows up at his at Jess's apartment or whatever. Yeah,
I love when he goes to Aunt Mildred's house and there's a man opens the door. He's like, "What do you want?"
Yeah, who are you?
Who are you? I love that part. Yeah. And then he goes next door to use the phone, and there's like a teenager chewing gums. Like, who are you? What are you doing here? Kind of thing. It was hilarious.
And then does he ask the teenage girl, like, do you know Aunt Mildred or something? And she's like, yeah, I think she died like 7 years ago or something.
Yeah, there's some weird references and all that stuff. And the guy's like, I've lived here for 9 years and I bought it from some other person that wasn't Aunt Mildred.
Right. So again, I guess that we could dovetail that as a theme of lost time because, everything's different. People are different. And then we will later come to realize that a lot of time has passed since Walter, a.k.a. Alan, lived in this town of Corville. Let's move on to act number 2, and I'm titling this act The Revelation of Creation. So Alan and Jessica give up and they head back home. Well, they start to head back home, and then on the drive, Alan hears those electrical noises again, and this time he's able to make out a sound of himself talking to Walter among them. So again, the whirling sounds and all these things are in his head, and he starts to hear Walter in his head, and he tells Jessica to stop the car. He runs out and picks up a rock to kill her with it. He fights back this urge and screams at Jessica to get as far away from him as possible. Right? That's kind of a crazy scene. And she has to be just like, what is going on with you, dude? Like, you're trying to kill me now? I wonder if she's reconsidering this idea to get married after 4 days when the real...
You would think so, but no, she's not. This guy can do no wrong.
I know, right?
The second that you get to this town and, hey, there is no Aunt Mildred, that would have been my red flag. Right.
I'm out of here. You're a liar. Yeah. You're a scammer, whatever. Yeah. Not this chick. No way.
Because the whole time I'm thinking, okay, he's a murderer. He's a serial killer. That's the twist.
Right.
The twist is he's a serial killer of some kind. But it's just, he can do no wrong. No matter what he says, no matter what he does, she's like, I'm here for you. Don't worry. I'm not going anywhere. What?
I know. She's one of the most understanding women maybe that have ever existed. I'm like, yeah, she's reassuring him the whole time. I'm not going at the grave site and everything too. Like, I'm not going anywhere. We're going to figure this out. We're going to get you help. I mean, this woman is a saint. And he's trying to kill her, but instead he screams at her and he tells her to get as far away as possible. She reluctantly gets back in the car and drives off as Alan's homicidal urge subsides. And then he's lost time again. He's disoriented by his frustrated urge to kill, and he lingers in the road until a car hits him.
Smack.
And then the driver...
I mean, am I the only one that thought that he was an ICE agent at that moment? Too soon? Too soon? I'll come back with that one later.
Oh, man, I wish I had my rim shot queued up here. I would have been on the money with that one. Yeah. That one's a little...
Jason Bond does not necessarily endorse the views of this podcast.
It's a little too fresh. Yeah. So the driver applies the brakes in enough time that Alan's not gravely hurt. Unfortunately, that was not the situation earlier this week for the other person involved, but I digress. But he sustains a deep cut in his wrist, and bizarrely enough, he's not bleeding, right? And that's our first clue. We get the T-1000 clue, as I call it.
That is a pretty cool scene, though.
It is, and I wonder if Terminator, what's the guy? Wow, now his name's
like James Cameron.
James Cameron, thank you, Bond. If he, this was in the back of his mind when he was creating Terminator, because the whole scene is very similar. It's the arm and the cutting away when Arnold, peels back.
Yeah, you can see the gears,
the mechanical hand and everything. Yeah, I wonder if it's kind of maybe a slight homage to this Twilight Zone. I can't help but think that. So instead of blood and guts, there's and flesh and bone. He finds metal rods and wiring and stuff underneath his wrist, the skin or whatever in his wrist. And this is the part that Bond mentioned earlier. He decides he's gonna, after he parts ways with the man that hit him, gives him a ride into town or wherever he's staying, and the guy says, "Here, sign this form so you don't sue me later." And he ends up in his hotel room, and he has like a handkerchief over his wrist. Jess, she calls Alan after he returns to the city, and she's now convinced that he needs mental help. And
I like how he's like trying to burn his hand.
Oh yeah, with the match. Yeah, that was interesting. He's testing it out.
Jimbo, what would you do if you were Alan at this moment, where you cut your arm and you realize that your arm is nothing but gears and pulleys and stuff like what would you do? Do you go to a mechanic? Do you go to the doctor?
A killing spree. That's what he is.
What do you do with this big open, gear wound on your arm?
Well, what would I do with the wound on his hand? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, like
to cover it up.
His hand still works, right? So it didn't, even though it looked like things were disconnected.
You notice when he pulled out, it does look like there's some disconnection there.
Yeah,
wires are popping out. So if it's me, I'm going to look at it. I'm going to shove it back in there. I'm going to, because it was perfectly cut, so I'm going to throw it right back over there. Maybe get some super glue, throw that super glue around it, get a little bit of Jessica's makeup, put it around there, flesh tone it.
Keep on trucking. Just keep on trucking, man. Keep on going.
Man, it's like, hey, didn't your pinky used to work?
So Jess is convinced now she's got to get this guy some help from a psychiatrist. So he agrees to go with her to the appointment, but knows from his robotic arm that his problems they go way beyond mental issues, because he has like the physical evidence in front of him. So I'm sure he was very confused at this point. He doesn't have a whole lot of answers, but those answers are coming shortly in Act 3. And I've titled Act number 3, The Identity and Destruction. So on instinct, Talbot believes that Walter Ryder is the key. So he actually goes and he looks up Walter's name in a phone book in Corville. That may have been earlier. I may be out of sequence here, but throughout the episode, he decides that he's going to get it and his phone number and everything. And he goes and he makes an unannounced visit.
He walks right in because the door is unlocked.
Right, which that was weird to me too. Like, who goes to somebody's house and just walks right in? Right? So it turns out that Walter is his physical double. And then Walter explains that Alan is an android, and he he's been developed using funds from this calculator invention that he created, using the help from some of the world's greatest scientists and his own self-professed genius. And this is where we get into the elongated back and forth to their mirror image self, and there's a lot of dialogue here, and everything sort of kind of gets crystallized and it gets unpacked, and a lot of Alan's questions are answered.
Now let me ask you guys a question. When Walter undoes his shirt and he shows the scar on his chest, and he says, "You just about killed me."
Mm-hmm.
Why didn't they show that?
I don't know.
When would they have showed it?
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, because what he said just a few short days ago or something, I think he said.
Mm-hmm.
So we know he's thrown the lady onto the subway. He's tried to kill his girlfriend. But did he just block it out of his memory that he met himself? Was the guy wearing a ski mask? What's going on here?
Yeah, I think after like certain tragic events, I think his consciousness like resets itself.
Yeah.
Not 100% because he still knows who he
noise
is.
He hears.
Yeah, maybe that's like some sort of reset. That's definitely some sort of faulty system in his brain.
Delete.
Yeah, he deletes himself.
Reboot.
And certain aspects just get wiped. Because, like you said, he never mentions the old lady on the at the subway again either.
All right, I'm going to throw this out here now. I don't know if this is the right time to throw it out here, but I'm going to throw this out right now. We know that he's an android of himself, right? And he has been creating these android people trying to get better. Because you remember he's like, well, what about Mrs. Whatever? I can't remember her name. It's like, oh, well, she was just a made-up lady of several of my women from my youth or whatever. My question is, number one, do you think that he has created more than just this one and used their memories to try to get to the perfect android of himself? And number two, do you think that buzzing noise that he hears, is it downloading to like his mainframe computer for his next invention of the next android? That he can download all that stuff into, like, kind of, if you remember like the episode I Sing the Body Electric, which me and Bond were talking about, you could go in there and pick different stuff out and put in what you want. Is that what he's doing right here with this guy, with himself?
So every time he hears that noise, you think it's like uploading?
Like uploading into the mainframe computer of this guy's house, and he can select the data that he wants. So he's gotten data from the ones that he has made before, and every time there's just something that goes wrong, he's trying to get it to the perfection, because this guy now has a girlfriend. They're getting married, and it's everything that this guy wanted in his life. So is it something that he's taken and doing that?
I'm going to say that I don't think he's that far advanced, because in the dialogue, he tells Alan, when I created you, it was like a blind man shooting a machine gun at a target. I don't think he's that far advanced in
what
creating.
I'm saying is that when he created you, has he created more than one of him? Is he using you as a
jumping off point?
As a thing of all the ones he's created? Because if I say I created you, Eric, but I've had 15 versions of you, it's still you.
Well, I'm just saying, inside of the dialogue of the episode, when Alan requests, hey, fix whatever's wrong with me, make another one like me, Walter says, well, I can't. I basically got lucky. It was 1 in a million shot that you're even here. So I'm not even sure that I could duplicate you again. So I don't know how he would have multiple.
There's 2 failed versions of him, like
laying on the table.
But are those failed, or are those the next iterations?
No,
that I don't know.
Inferior versions.
Yeah, I think that too. It doesn't specifically say inside the episode, but I would just assume that, yeah, those were failed versions, and that the Alan Talbot version actually was just like a miracle that, like he says, a blind guy shooting a machine gun. He just happened to hit his target.
Isn't there something mentioned the fact that he's kind of like the opposite of Walter?
Yes.
Like where Walter is timid, he is brave, that kind of thing.
I've got that quote.
Everything that Walter
here.
wants to be, right?
Right, exactly.
So my big struggles were, like I said before, he tells her to go home, right? He tells Jessica, hey, go back to your apartment. And she's there within minutes because she's there and she goes, I've been trying to call every 15 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I'm like, but isn't it hours and hours to get back home to your apartment?
Right.
And also he says he got the funding because of this calculator he invented. But then he says, I've sold 4,000 of them. And how much are calculators in 1963?
They're expensive.
Because if he gets
Tex Lab
TI, yeah, if he gets the TI, right?
Yeah.
But if he gets $1 a calculator back in 1963, I get $1 for every calculator you sell. That's only $4,000.
Mm-hmm.
That's not enough to build an elaborate laboratory with artificial androids and all these scientists backing him and things like that. Did he sell a patent on the thing?
And what was the thing that I thought it was an incinerator. He opens up the door and he starts flipping the switches, and I was like, this looks like an incinerator. Is he about ready?
That's what I thought it was too.
Yeah, I don't know. These are all really.
He should have asked Walter to fix his wrist. Is what he should have done.
Just patch me up.
Yeah, just patch me up and send me back out, Coach.
Yeah, you guys really thought really deeply inside of this episode. I'm impressed. We're circling back to Jimbo's one of his original points, though, about the scissor assault, right? They talk about that when they get down to the laboratory or whatever. I think that would have been a cool cold, maybe not a cold open because the lady getting thrown on the train is the cold open, but maybe like after that, you have a scene where they struggle with a pair of scissors, like another action scene where someone almost dies. That probably would have been cool.
Don't see the guy's face.
Right. That would have been a cool
insert. Cover the guy's face. He should have a flashback of like maybe just his point of view.
Yeah.
Of just a pair of scissors coming out and
like
hitting
Psycho.
the guy in the chest.
Yeah.
Yeah, like a Psycho version cut.
That might have been more interesting than, 20 minutes of conversation.
Let's tour the town that I don't recognize.
Yeah, it was a little slow there in the middle of it.
He says, he does say that some of his memories and bits and pieces of himself went into the cells. So that's why I'm thinking that you've got two of them there on the table already. How much of that did he put into the cells on them already? Did he keep expanding that stuff when he uploaded the information to this guy? That's why I didn't understand.
For your sake, we're going to say yes.
Thank you.
Yes. You solved it. You solved it.
All I want, I'm not going to say my prop piece yet, but.
Oh, I totally forgot about that.
I thought that's what you were going to do. I thought you were going to claim dibs on something. I was like, nope.
All right. Well, let's move along and let's wrap this one up. Let's see. Alan is, in this conversation, Walter admits that his scientific reach, it exceeded his grasp, and there are aspects of the creation that he doesn't understand. And then he also goes on, as we've already kind of talked about, that Alan was designed to be a perfect version of Walter, to be outgoing, bold, and charming, while the real Walter is shy, self-pitying, and socially awkward. So those are key points that we want to pull out of the episode. So Alan, in this exchange, he's outraged that Walter created an artificial human without considering the consequences. In particular, the situation with Jessica, because he wants to marry this woman. This is like, this is going to mess up his whole life because he can't be having these episodes where he wants to go and murder people. So I've got a clip here we're going to insert right here, and we'll get a little bit of understanding of what's going on with this exchange. And this is actually, I think this clip, let me set it up. It's like right before they go into the basement to look at the laboratory and stuff. So here we go.
You expect me to believe I'm a machine when I know I'm not? That's ridiculous. I eat, I drink, I sleep. Didn't I tell you I wanted a perfect creation? Alan? Alan, I want you to come with me. Where? Well, let's call it the delivery room. Don't you want to see where you were born?
And we cut the commercial there. So when we come back, we're in the basement in the creation room. And Alan, he demands that Walter replace him properly as a functioning android so that he can love and care for Jessica. And then he writes down her address for Walter on the scrap piece of paper, the tract that was given to him by the evangelist. And then that just totally triggers him, and he goes into a major meltdown again, and the buzzing and the whirling. And then we see a pretty cool fight scene. What do you guys think?
I thought that the whole thing reminded me of Frankenstein.
Yeah.
Where Frankenstein and Frankenstein's monster, they're confronting each other. There's this big in-depth conversation about creation and why was I created and what gives you the right to create life. That kind of debate and discussion was brought up, which I thought was really cool. I really liked that part. And of course, I thought the fight scene was done really well. It was well choreographed. They weren't afraid to knock stuff over.
No, it was really aggressive.
And it lasted a lot longer than I thought it would have.
Let me ask you a question, Eric.
What's up?
If he can feel no pain from burning himself, how does he fall punches to the guy's face? I'd be just standing there taking the punches. There would be no, he's falling over and all that.
Yeah, I don't know how he disabled him at the end, right? You don't really know how. I mean, he crashes him into the all the equipment and stuff, but yeah.
Well, I mean, before it fades, you see, actually, I do believe the android has the upper hand.
Yeah, you think that Alan is going to win the fight. I just assumed that, but then, Walter ends up.
But I just didn't understand if they've went so far to establish this big cut on his hand, he feels no pain. Mm-hmm. Burning of a match, he feels no pain. How does he win? Conclusion that we get to.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead, Bob.
During the fight scene, I mean, the fact that he's being thrown around or punched or anything doesn't necessarily mean that it hurts him, because even if you felt no pain but somebody pushed you, you'd still go back. You'd still fall back from the pressure of somebody pushing you. So there's really not any pain there. I'll wait till we get to the very, very last scene to share another thought that I'm having right now.
Okay. So let's get to that end scene. Alan, we already talked about that. After the struggle, the survivor goes to Jessica and asks her to forget about his strange behavior of the past couple days, saying that the nightmare is over and he will tell her what happened someday. In the final scene, it's revealed that the survivor is Walter and that Alan's broken form lies amid the wreckage of the laboratory.
You want some of Mother Conley's famous raised eggs or whatever?
Oh, yeah.
Two of them will fill you up or whatever she says, remember?
Yeah,
right.
Eggs.
Yeah, that was a good line. Hey, just forget about all the psychotic behavior that you've experienced from me over the last 48 hours. And
the week that you've known me.
Yeah. I mean, this woman, I don't know. I think she's delusional.
That's a red flag, man. If
Major.
At some point you don't have the self-esteem to stand up and say, okay, I don't think this is going to work out. I don't know if this is the girl for you.
Yeah, boy, that was a difficult one for me too. So, Bond, do you want to save your commentary at the very end?
No, here, I can share it right now.
Okay.
At this point, at the very, very end, I don't know about you guys, but were you guessing which person shows up at her door?
Yes.
Because they show this big fight scene. The next thing they cut to is he's at her door. And I'm like, who won the fight?
Yeah.
Is the big twist going to be the fact that that's the robot?
Yeah.
And he's back,
And this is where I started drawing conclusions, because it seems like he just used him to get the female companion that he's always wanted. And that's why I was wondering if that was his ultimate goal by doing this whole experiment to begin with, is to have somebody to love.
Yeah.
Well, is he going to blow it? because he still has his old personality. She fell in love with the opposite personality.
But remember, the other guy had everything that he wasn't. So where he
exactly,
was, the other guy's timid and aggressive. So it's probably a better version that she'll fall in love with even better and make everything right. Where there is none of these flipping off. Well, who's this? I don't know. They never existed, basically.
Yeah, I think mentally he's more stable, but there are certain aspects of his personality that are no longer there.
What would you have done if she would have went into the kitchen to get her eggs and she sliced her finger and pulled back and she was a robot?
She was a robot. Now, that
would have been a good twist.
Yeah. Because the major Twilight Zone twist is the fact that Walter replaces the robot and ends up with the girlfriend, right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah, those are good observations. That would have been a really cool twist, Jimbo, if she would have been a robot. Yeah, awesome. Definitely. All right, let's talk. I don't have a whole lot of trivia here. That's probably a good thing. Let's talk about it, though. Alan Talbot collects money for the Junior Woodchucks, a fictional Boy Scout organization created by Carl Banks in 1951 for comic books. This is for you, involving Donald Duck. The TZ author Charles Beaumont briefly wrote stories for the same firm that published the Woodchuck Stories series. So there you go. Deep in comic book lore. This is the first of the fourth season episodes airing from January to May 1963. We've already talked about this at some length, about how they're an hour long, and the CBS executives decided to switch the show's time for this single season. They're a longer slot for them, so they're longer episodes. First episode in which the opening segment features items such as a door window breaking and the flying doll. Did you guys like the opening sequence better or worse? I'm not a big fan of it.
Oh.
Yeah, it's okay, but I like the previous season's openings.
Not broke, don't fix it.
Yeah. When the old lady in the subway states the devil is always around, the devil clothing ad is always within sight for the rest of the scene, as Jimbo noted earlier. So the title is a biblical reference from Genesis to that form that God gave to Adam, the first man, Genesis 1:27. So God created man in his own image. In the image of God, he created him, male and female. He created them, from Genesis 1:27. Alan and Jessica's car is a 1960 Ford Sunliner convertible. For you car people out there. Now, this was kind of interesting, being somewhat of a Michael Jackson fan. The first two sentences of the episode's opening narration by Rod were sampled at the very end of the 2001 Michael Jackson album Invincible on the track entitled Threatened. So I went back and listened to it, and sure enough, it's Rod's first two lines are right at the beginning of that track. So that's pretty cool. Here's a quote from George Grizzard. I did two of those Twilight Zones, recalled Grizzard. My part was much larger in the second because it was the first hour-long production. And then he goes on to talk about Lafferty was the director. You could tell he knew exactly what he was doing from day one. Now, this is the interesting part because he talks about this fight scene at the end, which I think for me is like the highlight of the episode, really. The scene where I fight my dual self was done through a process here they called split screen. The camera was situated and bolted so that it would stay in place. Then they filmed me on one side of the screen acting out the motions as if I was talking to my other self. Then they filmed me on the other side playing the other role. There was tape on the floor to mark the center of the screen. I would not cross the line. The fella who played my duplicate during the fight scenes, and he names him here, Joseph Sargent, read my lines off camera so that the dialogue could be timed. And when they put the film together, both halves were sliced to give the appearance that there really were two Georges on the screen. I thought that was pretty good little inside baseball and how they did that.
Well, it kind of reminds me of the Parent Trap, the old Haley Mills Parent Trap. If you ever seen that, it's pretty much the same thing they did there.
Yeah, and I like
it was done really well.
Yeah, and the camera placement up high, it looks like the camera is like right where the staircase would be, and it's shooting down. I thought it was a cool scene. The January 7th, 1963 issue of the Hollywood Reporter reviewed this episode, and I'm going to take out an excerpt from there. It says, unfortunately, the second half didn't measure up to the suspense and excitement of the first hour. Well, it said first half hour, sorry, excuse me. I agree with that assessment completely and 100%. I thought the first half hour kind of drew you in, especially the first 2 minutes, and then it was sort of coasting for the rest. And that's all the trivia that I really have. Guys, ratings, reviews, prop pieces. What are things that you take away from the episode?
Yeah, I'll go first, man. I like this episode. It seemed like I was putting it down the whole time during this whole podcast. Yeah. But I like this episode. It was entertaining. I kept asking myself the entire time, did this need to be an hour-long episode? Did they make the most of their double time? I guarantee they did not make the most out of their extended budget for sure. I didn't see the double budget in this one. Maybe that the cost of like the split screen and the special effects with that. But overall, I'm like, I don't see why this one costs twice as much to make. Mm-hmm. I think that it does very well as an hour long because it sets up the relationship. It sets up that tension at the beginning with the subways. It explains the lost time, the lost place. There's, like I said, that Frankenstein type scene where he confronts his maker. Mm-hmm. I don't think you could do that in the 24 minutes or whatever it is for a half-hour episode. So I thought they did really well on that part. That being said, there's a lot of holes in this thing. That's kind of what we did the whole time. We were just shooting holes in this whole episode. So unfortunately, it's going to fall a little short for me. I'm giving it a 6 out of 10.
Okay.
Because it's better than average. I didn't really care about any of the characters, so I have to give it a 6 out of 10. For my prop piece, and this is the reason I wanted to go first.
Yeah.
See, I could take the car. The convertible is pretty sweet, please. But I'm not going to do that. I could take the arm. The arm with all the mechanical gears inside. That's a good one.
That's a good one.
So I'm thinking that maybe that's what Jimbo's going to take. Never know. But I will take, let's see. I'll take the tombstone.
Oh.
The Walter
Ryder.
Tombstone. Yeah, the Walter Ryder tombstone.
All right. I'll let Jimbo have the last word, so I'll go ahead and give my opinion. I wrote down some of the dialogue from the episode. I think this was like the crux for me of the episode of why Walter created Alan, and it all kind of came together for me for the reasoning behind why all this took place. And it says, I told myself I wanted to make an artificial man, but I think what I really wanted was to build another Walter Ryder without the drawbacks. Sort of a reverse Jekyll and Hyde. Everything I wished I was, my creation would be. Where I was shy, he would be aggressive. Where I was cold and withdrawn, he would be warm and outgoing. Loneliness would be unknown to him. Disease and pain and death, all unknown. He would be unselfish. He would be ambitious, but not fanatical. And, oh, Alan, he would be perfect. That was my dream, a perfect version of myself. And that kind of got me thinking, like, if we're all self-examining ourselves, there are always things in our personality or things that we wish that we could change, or we wish we were better. Maybe we have a short fuse like myself and wish that I had longer fuse and more patience. And I think that's sort of the genesis of what created the urge to create a better version of himself. But instead of doing it through, I don't know, proper mental health steps or meditation or reflecting or therapy or, a lot of different things that you can help to sort of stave off the things like of self-improvement, things that you would like to better about yourself. He decided he was going to create something, that word perfect in that dialogue there. There's no one who's perfect. And the idea of perfection is out there for human beings. It's not attainable. And that was his first false assumption. And then that kind of leads is control more important than compassion? Does Dr. Ryder act out of necessity or out of fear of losing authority over his own creation? And should safety override his moral responsibility? And that's where he loses it, because once he's like that blind guy with the machine gun and his creation of himself that he wants to be, once he actually achieves his goal, then there's a whole host of other problems that come along with it. I think this guy was probably shy. He was backward. He didn't know how to talk to women. Maybe he was so in his laboratory, a real brainiac, that his social skills suffered. And so he thought this was a creative solution to fix his problem, and it completely blew up in his face. All right. That's inside. Overall, the episode, I think it's a pretty good episode to start off season 4. I'm not going to lie. There are the plot holes like you got that Bond already discussed, but I think it was a pretty good launch. I would probably rate it about a 7 on the scale. It's not going to be at the end of the season. I don't think it's going to be one that we remember. It's going to be probably one of those ones that wasn't really great, but it wasn't terrible either. And it was just, it was an episode. And so it's a 7 for me. And I am going to take the convertible just because that's kind of a rare car. I'd never even heard of that car up until this episode. It's a pretty cool convertible. So I'll take that as my prop piece. Jimbo, you take the last word.
All right. The first thing that I thought when I was watching this, there's 2 things that came to mind. One was I sing The Body Electric about picking out your own grandma. We went through that when they were picking out the body parts. But it really, really reminded me of Persons or Persons Unknown, where the guy wakes up and nobody remembers who he is. You remember at the end, he has the photo and he disappears from the photo. They got more out of the half-hour episode of those 2 episodes than we got out of the full hour of this. Like Bond said, there was an awful lot of repeating things that you didn't need to repeat. As far as, who lives here? Well, they don't live here anymore. Well, my mom, they don't live. It just kept going on and on and on. I do think if they would have fleshed out the story a little bit more and cut a lot of the repetitiveness off, it could have been so much better. We talked about the knife, the cuts on the guy's chest. If they would have shown how that happened, even though you didn't see it, you didn't know what happened there. If he would have explained, the buzzing noise that he heard, hey, why am I hearing this buzzing noise? Maybe if the creator could have given him a little bit of insight there. And why did they say that Jess and him had only known each other like 5 days and they were getting married or whatever? They could have said 5 years. We would have not known the difference as the audience. It probably would have brought it in even closer because she would have known a lot more about him. That's more stuff that he could have gave to the creator at the end or whatever. Or was it so odd? You start thinking about those posters in the subway at the beginning. I don't think they were there by accident. I think they were there on purpose. What did the one say? The one about suffering mental illness. They can come back. So think about the redemption story of the creator. So he went through all this. He was mentally ill. They were both mentally ill, but even the creator was mentally ill.
Oh.
He's trying to get back to a normal life. So I like that. And I also like the one about where's the meat, because he was an android. He had no meat on the inside, right? He's all robots and everything. And then they said, and what did it say? It said, dressed like the devil. What's he do at the end? He comes in to Jessica's house dressed up in a suit, just kind of like what was on that poster. So you kind of got him playing the God mentality when he's acting like the devil. I just thought that was really cool how they did that. Mm-hmm. So my prop piece would probably be the Howling Man poster. I just think it's pretty cool looking, and just for the historical facts of that. Now to rate this, if we're going to be fair, we can nitpick it all day long. I mean, let's face it, it's the first hour-long episode. How long have we wanted an hour-long episode for some of these other ones that we said, man, this should have been an hour-long episode, because they did not give us enough. What do they do with their first one when they come out of the gate? They don't give us enough, right? They gave us too much of the wrong thing. So if they would have just toned it in, I hope the next week's is even better. But for me, it's probably between a 6 and a 7. So I'll go with a 6.5. I didn't hate the episode. It left me wanting more answers, but instead I got more questions, if that makes sense.
Yep.
So I think once again, it proves why Charles Beaumont was one of the best directors, writers, whatever he did for this episode. He does a far better job than Rod Serling does when Rod directs one or writes one. We know this. So, Eric, I do believe that you have a little foretelling of the next week's episode.
I do. So if you enjoyed this episode, hang on to it, because next week, well, I don't want to give it away. I'll let you, the audience, make up your mind. But here's a little preview of next week's episode.
The ingredients: an American destroyer, the Pacific Ocean, and the ghostly sound of hammering from 30 fathoms below. They add up to a strange tale of the bizarre and nightmarish. Mike Kellen and Simon Oakland star in a very different kind of Twilight Zone, which we call the 30-fathom grave.
So there you go. Join us next time when we record.
Right. So can't wait for that. And we're going to start seeing if these hour-long episodes pay off for the Twilight Zone, or if they're like, well, this just didn't work. That experiment went bad. Like we said, there's only 18 episodes instead of the normal 32, 36 episodes we have been getting. So, well, if you like what you heard, we are the Tragedy of Cinema podcast. You can find us on Facebook. You can leave us a review. We are going through the rest of the Twilight Zone series. And I don't know about these two, but I enjoy doing these. I think they're fun. And they don't make TV like this anymore. We always get that stupid stuff on TV these days. And I like looking back at history of TV and how far it's become, but also how far it's set us back, because some of the stuff in the old days was just way better than what the stuff you get today. So, but with that being said, I think this episode's coming to a close, and that's a wrap.
And
Cut.
In a way, it can be said that Walter Ryder succeeded in his life's ambition, even though the man he created was, after all, himself. There may be easier ways to self-improvement, but sometimes it happens that the shortest distance between 2 points is a crooked line through the Twilight Zone.